In this week's episode, we sat down with Justin Fellenz. He is the founder and owner of Share Soleil, which is a solar company. And Justin takes us on an amazing journey from his time growing up in 29 Palms, working through multiple companies, and then deciding to go out on his own and take that risk of being an entrepreneur. This was another amazing opportunity for us to share an entrepreneur's journey and Justin's story. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Tell Us Your Story.
Welcome to Tell Us Your Story. Join us as we step into the arena with business owners, leaders, and influencers. Hear their stories as they navigate challenges, opportunities, and victories on their journey to success. As Theodore Roosevelt once said, it is not the critic who counts, but the man or woman who is actually in the arena.
I grew up in 29 Palms. It's a very small military town just northeast of Palm Springs.
Not a lot out there. Huge Marine Corps base there.
Yeah, huge. Like land-wise, I guess it's one of the biggest bases in the country. But the town, you know, there's two stoplights. There hasn't been a lot of growth still, you know, since we were out there. It was a kind of a place where my mom could raise me and my brother like cheaply. That was the first place we had our own place, and it was affordable. It was a small town.
Literally out in the desert.
Yeah, out in the desert, people move slow. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of, they call it like the meth capital of the world. There's a lot of methamphetamines out there. Not a lot to do if you're a kid outside of school and, you know, get in trouble.
And what kind of student were you when you were growing up? Were you academic or?
For academic, for sure. I did really well. They skipped me to 7th grade. They put me in 8th grade. I graduated high school when I was 16.
Oh, wow.
But that's all. I mean, that's all we had. So I only got to play, like, I love basketball, but I got to play, you know, one rec league 1 year. I loved it, but we didn't have a lot of money. My grandpa had paid for that. So school was the only outlet. So it's kind of like something I threw myself at, and I was really, really good. But we all know that school's kind of like a, you know, a memorization thing. There's not a lot of real world application in it. So school smarts versus street smarts, or how to move in, you know, in the world with financial education or mentorship. It was lacking that, but I did really well on the school side.
Was there any connection to the military town, but that wasn't like nothing with your parents or any?
Nothing. It was purely a place that my mom got that she could pay the rent with her and then me and my little brother. So super affordable. And then we went out there. You know, the Marine base is such a big economic hub for that town. So a lot of the locals, you know, you'll hear about them working on base. It's probably where most of the economy. Now they have a casino there, so which has probably made it worse in some ways. But the Marine base is still a big hub for that town for jobs and whatnot.
Yeah, I was stationed there for 2.5 years. I remember Four Corners, one of the two stoplights. It just was the main area where there was a four-way light. And then you had a barbershop on Main Street and a couple of bars, and that was not a whole lot there.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I have some people that, you know, I still talk with that are still there from when I grew up. I have a friend, she calls it like the sandbox of broken dreams. It's a pretty miserable place, but like there's a lot of good people that are there, like in the schools and in the sports, and that's got, you know, kind of work with the community that you're at wherever the situation is. So I know there's a lot of people doing well by the kids out there.
And so what was the dream? You graduated at 16. Did you want to leave? What was the dream, to get out of 29 Palms?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't have any guidance. My father wasn't in my life, so I had no like role model in that way. I just knew my peers, I had passed them up, but I didn't know like where to go. So I did vocational. I took a CNA thing for like 6 months, and I was a CNA for like 4 weeks before I quit that job. That's a story in itself. It was,
not for you?
No. They had me in subacute and people with trachs in their neck, and it was just, yeah, it's some crazy nerd. Yeah, that's the whole story. But I did that, and then I ended up meeting she's now my ex-wife, and then we got married, and because she got pregnant, and I thought that was, what she was supposed to do. Then from high school, I went to the community college and kind of, what am I going to do? Did well enough, and I transferred to UC Davis. So me, when my daughter was like 3 months old, we moved from 29 Palms to UC Davis.
How old were you at the time? Were you young?
Young. I was like 20. Shit.
Okay.
I had her when I was 20. Well, I didn't have her, but I was 20. I was 20 when she was born. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a massive move. Were you culture shock moving from the desert into where UC Davis in Davis, California?
Yeah, it's culture shock beyond, so many, beyond just culture. There's so many people. There's so many extra things to do. Sacramento's right there. There's which 80 freeway are you going to get on? You get lost. Like when you drive up here, it's totally different from 2 stoplights to everything. And then fortunately I love basketball. So we had some student housing, like it was right across the street from the Arc at UC Davis. And then they had basketball courts on the backside of the house, and people would come from all over the Bay and play outside to like 1 or 2 in the morning. And it was fortunately that was like one thing that bridged it. Like I had a lot of good times playing a lot of basketball. I came into college as a statistics major. I was really always good with numbers, like almost like talented, like intuitively so. But then I didn't work hard enough. Like I had a wife and kids, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do, like as far as like what's the plan. And so I switched from a stats major. Mainly, retrospect, I just wasn't working hard enough, because at some point you have to put in effort. You can't just go off talent. Yeah. And then I switched to communication, which is something I've always talked and spoke really well, but it was a lot easier. But even then, I didn't know, what was I going to do with a communication degree.
And were you working as you were going through college? How are you taking care of the family?
Well, we had, she went to college too, so we had abundant financial aid, and then, those federal work study jobs that you could have. So the money was never an issue. I worked at the Domino's too, so that was good income. No, it wasn't great, but I mean,
yeah,
it was
you're a college student.
Yeah, it was more than enough to, between the loans and the grants and the extra money here and there, it was never really a struggle,
And so as you're going through getting your degree, you said you didn't know what you were going to do with the degree. Did you have a dream of what you wanted to do?
No, actually I didn't. That was probably where the start of that marriage started to end, because I didn't know, as a man, you're supposed to be a leader and have like a direction. I didn't know, get a communication degree and then go get a job and make like $30,000. Like it was depressing when I thought about it, And so I didn't, to answer your question, no, I didn't have like a dream. Like I kind of just was loving my life until I wasn't. And then, you figure out like I shouldn't have gotten married. And then we did split up. So she had went down to San Diego with my daughters, and then I stayed up at school for a little bit, went down to San Diego, tried to make it work, and then it obviously didn't work. And so I went back up to UC Davis. And another thing was the whole college aspect. I almost felt like I gave that up because I was like in a family. So I went back up there, and I was really, really like overweight at the time. I was depressed, and I lost like 100 pounds in like 8 months playing basketball. Like I had unemployment at the time from the Domino's, and then I had a couple more classes to finish for the degree. So I went back up there and, just played basketball every day, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And then kind of survived like off unemployment, not like, it wasn't abundant money. And then that's when I started getting into fitness and selling gym memberships.
And were you still going to school, or did you drop out of school?
So I was still at school and was done with that. But then I still like, okay, what do I want to do with this degree? Which I think most people, especially now, like what's your plan with college? A 4-year degree really doesn't get you anything. And, I guess from an employer, it tells you can be somewhat committed, but I mean, you're memorizing facts and communications at lower levels rather easy, versus like something like a statistics or any of the sciences. So I didn't know, where to go with that. And then I got a job at a local fitness center. And then I found out that I was naturally passionate about it because I had struggled with weight. And so that was really, really easy to tap into that and talk to people and get them to sign up for gym memberships. And that's kind of where I started my first career in that. After that, I moved to Colorado Springs. My mom was out there. So I worked at a gym, for lack of a better word. I mean, they had an obstacle course on the outside, and Colorado Springs is a big military town as well. So they would have, corporate wellness where they would have the doing different things on the obstacle courses. And so that's where I really started to like learn sales. Like I had the manager and we were going to the store to get something for like the juice bar. And he was like, go talk to that person about the gym. And I don't want to go talk to them, And so when it's uncomfortable, right? And I did it. And then, I did pretty well at that,
And so did they give you any type of training on how to sell, or was it just more natural ability getting in front of people that you started to learn?
Well, it was me taking the initiative to seek out people and courses and books and then experience and try and you had like, I remember that same place when I was learning, this one guy who had sales, he like, oh, give me a tour of the gym. And I was telling him about the gym, but I wasn't asking any questions or figuring out why it was like, they call it a museum tour. Like, this is what it's not, getting that understanding why that person's there, So I remember like the development of myself as a sales professional, like, pretty concrete, like hitting my head on the wall and doing better. And then when you start having success, it starts to be a little bit more fun.
Yeah. And so you would say overall you enjoy sales?
I enjoy talking with people and helping them make a decision. Sales there's like, you'll hear a lot of people like closing deals and stuff like that. I prefer to like take orders, because then closing deals, like if I have to like put in a bunch of work to make you want what I have, like I think I'm doing it wrong. I rather, there's a saying like people hate to be sold, but they love to buy, right? Mm-hmm. So I rather put myself in a position to where people are coming to me. Like sales is all about positioning. If they know you have what they want, then they're coming to you versus you going to them. And it's a different way. But I did get pretty good at, getting people to sign and getting people to move forward. But always, like for me, the sales was never the first, like, okay, great, you signed up. Like people would be happy about that. But for me, it was like, okay, well, where's your family and friends? So I always became really good at asking for referrals and even paying the sales process like that, like selling them on giving them either referrals before the sale was even made, right? So I did that a lot with the gyms.
And so as you're going through that, are you looking at what you think you might want your career to be? Is it in sales, or are you looking at like, you're still a young man, so are you looking at like, what are you going to do with your future?
More so now, but at that point the cool thing about sales is you get to see the numbers. So you get to see where you're at. So I want to increase my numbers, increase my commission. And then I know with this podcast, you talk about like a lot about leadership, right? And so that was always been my frustration at these places that I worked with, was like a lack of like corporate leadership. Like, how do you promote? How do you go forward? Some people are just placeholders. And that I learned a lot about leadership in that, like, for example, a sales manager is never really the best salesperson. They're kind of just looking at the numbers and here's the system. And so one of the jobs after that gym I was telling you about, I came back to Woodland and I worked at a InShape out there.
in Woodland, California.
Yeah.
So it came from Colorado to Woodland. So
Well, Colorado back to California, then I went to Texas for a little and try to help a gentleman open a gym out there. I was like out there for 8 months, and I came back to California, and then I was because at that point I was tired of helping like you should say regular people just get their gym. Like I got a gym, but this is what we're gonna do, and then there's no leadership, and it's kind of like you're working for, you don't know what you're working for. And so InShape was my first like corporate, this is the system, and here you are, here's the system, and go excel, right? And so Woodland's a very small town.
Yeah.
And at that point they had a deal with like the Cache Creek Casino, and they get like 2 months free, and they just had a really good corporate deal. And it was slow in the gym. So what I would do is I'd get a box and fill it up with t-shirts and fill it up with manual contracts. And then there was a bus that people would take to the casino, and it'd be filled with the workers. So I'd get on the bus, they're there, it's a 20-minute bus ride. So I'd find a Spanish lady and let her, so I would come back with like 8 to 10 deals. I would give them all t-shirts, and
was that your idea? You just thought that was, or did somebody say like,
no,
oh,
they had that was the best deal, and this is that, like how they were that this is that what they were paying us, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't just work for, they had people that, I just sell gym memberships so I could lift here, it was nothing. But I had child support, I had I had to make this,
yeah.
right? So I was like, hey, this is the best deal ever for these people. They're always on the bus, like to go there. I mean, a bus full of like 20 people, and then it would be a bus taking people back, right? So I just have a box of t-shirts and manual contracts, and they got like the first month free. I just need to collect their signature and their ID number. And so I did that. And then one of my learning experiences with the sales it was like my second month there, and I hit my bonus, but and then my daughter's birthday was coming up, and it was only like for $500 or $600, but there's a certain EFT that you had to hit, and someone canceled, and so it went under, and so I lost my bonus, right? And my boss, the guy, he was hitting corporate up, trying to advocate for me because I've been doing really, really well, and I was just like, man, I should quit. Like, these people aren't taken care of. I was just upset, mad. And the regional manager came in. He's like, hey, man, you're doing a good job, but you should have sold more. Oh. And I was like, and no one liked this guy. They always said bad things about him. And I was like, oh, okay. I took it, and I never sold less after that. It was like a thing, Did you try your hardest? Like, you try your hardest. Did you work? Could you have worked smarter? Did you lose a sale? What could you have done? So that was a pretty, I remember that to this day.
So it was tough. You don't want to hear it in the moment, and sometimes there are not great leaders, managers, whatever, but sometimes that little key piece of I don't know, just tough feedback. And you're like, well, then use it as motivation. So it sticks with you to this day. It sounds like that was kind of a moment.
Yeah. It definitely, it serves for it's just checking yourself. Like, are you doing the most to get the most out of whatever opportunity you're doing, Yeah. And if you're not, are you doing something strategic to build more of a foundation so you can move faster later, right? But the results are the results. And that's why I like sales. Like, it's not, I just work my 40 hours. If I produce more, I get paid more. And if I produce less, I get paid less. So that's kind of what I've always really enjoyed about it.
And so when did you move from the gym into a different industry?
So, after InShape, I went to Las Vegas. My kids were in Las Vegas, and I got a job, opened at EOS Fitness, and it was like a pre-open. So they had 6 months before it was open, and it was, people who signed up, they had gyms throughout Vegas, and they could go there, be there for 6 months. And I did that, and I did really, really well there too. And I remember the general manager saying something after we opened, saying, oh, none of you guys are going to be promoted, like something crazy, not a good leadership. And I was just like, okay. So I quit. I quit, and I moved back to Sacramento. and I got another job back at InShape. They were going to hire me, but I walked into Uriah Faber, who's a UFC superstar in Sacramento, and he's a UFC Hall of Famer. And he was moving his gym from downtown to his one on Folsom, and it was a warehouse. And I had just opened a corporate like warehouse from pre-opening, and so I got that gig, and I did that for 8 months, and we killed it. Then I ended up in SoCal at this. It's called the Training Lab. It's Advanced Performance and Recovery Center. So they have hyperbaric oxygen, light therapy. The proprietors are there. It's a husband and wife. They're super convicted for God. And she has 9 kids, and the dude's a genius. He does all of the UFC their weight cuts like to the T. Wow. Like, but they were like training in his garage, and she was making them food, and so they weren't comfortable about asking these guys for money, especially with what they were getting paid. So I helped them get paid proper for his services. I mean, he was doing all these metabolic profiles for, these top level athletes for like 2 days. So we got him, being compensated the right way. We sold nutrition consultations through WhatsApp. They have a brand throughout the world. So in Australia, their big thing was the hair tissue mineral analysis. So you can get your hair and you can tell all of the elements that are in your hair, and you can kind of get a nutrition profile to do that. Then we had the MMA for youth and adults. So that's all the way up to COVID. COVID happened and shut all of that down.
Did you, if I can ask you before did you have any, so it sounds like there's some leaders that stand out to you, and it seems like in your journey you were figuring out, you're hustling, you're doing what you need to do, right? Provide for your family and kind of making the most. But did you have any leaders in there that were good for you, that really made a difference, or was it really just self-taught and kind of
I would say self-taught. Like, I mean, there's friends, there's relationships that I have, but I wouldn't consider them like good leaders. I guess I think I have a high threshold for someone that if I would consider them a leader. But there's people like I follow that, like, oh, okay, whether they're spiritual or entrepreneurial, like that talk the talk, walk the walk, and they say, some pretty inspiring things. So, I mean, I would say Sam Calavita and his wife, like I like, as far as a father, like I would look at him like that as a leader, like how he 9 kids, he's got this business and it's all based on excellence. He has all these top, I mean, he's the strength and conditioning coach or their lead consultant for Penn State, which has won every wrestling championship. I don't want to say every, but the most in the last decade. And so I look up to him, and different people lead in different ways, right? Like, so.
Well, let's go back to COVID. So COVID happened. And so where did that leave you going into COVID?
Came back to Sacramento. That's a theme, right? Came back up here. I had that awesome unemployment for like 4 or 5 months. But after that, it was like, I can only do this not working stuff. Like, what am I doing, right? And so the manager who I worked with opened that gym in Vegas. He was doing solar, and he was doing solar in Texas. And they flew me out there, and I learned everything. On that trip, I learned everything negative about solar, like as far as the how the sales process is, how they recruit people, how knock on doors, manipulate, for lack of a better word, the owner into hearing their pitch, and then the big commissions that you get if you close, right? So learned all about that. I've done a couple of those since then that were way more organized, but then I came back and that same company put me on leads to where they wanted me to drive to Paradise. They didn't want you to call the leads before because they thought the leads would cancel. And I'm like, well, if they're going to cancel and they're not that serious, why would I drive? But anyways, I drove, and the house that they were inquiring about would be burnt down. I don't know if you know about Paradise, but it'll be like these homes that are burnt down and one that wasn't. It's pretty sad up there. And I went into a home that I couldn't beat the bid, and they had another bid from Infinity Energy, which used to be out here in Rockland, just actually right around the corner here. And I walked in there, and I had a bunch of sales background. I had been selling solar, and the gentleman told me they had an outside sales where they're knocking doors, and then they had an inside sales team where they sold over the phone. And so the inside sales team was like a commission, or like minimum wage plus commission. And I got that job, and I never looked back, because sales is sales. It's just all about, like, if you're selling something, gym memberships would be like $25, or if you're selling, a big personal training, maybe you make $200. But like on the solar, you're making, thousands, depending on, the system size and whatnot. So when I joined them, they had a good sales environment, like, the incentives. So I wanted like trips to Hawaii. The first time I ever went out of the country was on a trip that I won from them. So we went to the DR, to the Dominican Republic, and then I got to take my daughter to her on the 16th birthday to Roatan, which was cool. That was really, really awesome. So that was the last trip that I had won before Infinity had went out of business. And there was a big law change in California about 3 years ago with the NEM 2 going to NEM 3. And a lot of solar companies went out of business after that. They were over leveraged. And then the overall demand for solar went down because the financial part of it was hit so hard by that law, and people didn't really understand it. So it took a big hit in California for like the last, I would say, it's good now, but the last 2 years have been pretty tough for the solar industry in California speaking.
What year was it that went out? Was that
2021 is when they changed the law, the
gotcha.
solar law.
And so when did you stop working there and transition into your own business?
My own business was last year. So this podcast, one of the reasons why I was like, should I do it or should I not do it, was because this is like brand new for me. Like I was almost like, okay, we'll do it now, but like check back on me in 6 or 7 months, right? Because I have a lot of things in the oven that I'm pretty excited about. And the summer's gonna be pretty fun. So
let's start with how you decided to do the business. So what prompted you to want to do the business?
Well, figuring out, learning the whole solar business and understanding how much money was truly involved and how are these companies making that much money and then they're going bankrupt. And then the business is Share Soleil. So it's my daughter's name is Soleil, which means sun. And the whole concept, when I talk about sales, like the idea of asking for referrals, like people, don't want to be sold, but they love to buy. And everyone wants to be that person to hook their people up with a good deal or whatever it is. Like, hey, you got to go talk to Anthony or, because he can take it. Like, you want to be that person. So when the law was changing, there was a gentleman, it took me like 3 months to earn his business. And once I earned it, he posted a post on Nextdoor. And it was a very genuine post. And he didn't give my information. He gave my information in Sunruns, so it would be fair. But he sent me like 50 names in like 20 days. Like insane.
Wow.
And so I killed it. And then seeing that, like, okay, I was an employee and, they had certain bonuses or whatever. And I saw what I made that. And then I saw what did the math on what if I just had my own company and this did it. And it was like 4 times the amount. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking more about like, what's wrong with the solar industry in general. And the most complaints are from consumers and people who work in the industry alike are really how it's marketed. So you have people knocking on doors, right? Which is like a human pop-up ad. It's not fun for the people. Some people, the people who are knocking on doors, they have to like psych themselves out it's a very, very hard job. I mean, you'll see doors that are, it's all Jesus out. You knock on the door on a Sunday, they're not answering with that same nice spirit, right? It's really, people are very, very rude sometimes. And the crazy thing is, especially in California, like I'm saving you like a lot of money. Like it's like a necessity. But nevertheless, you have to be someone people want to be around. That's how you end up getting their appointment, right? Through charisma, through sincerity, and you don't want that other person to shop your quote either. Because when I was selling on the inside, I just got a door knocker and he quoted me this. And then I would be like, kill that quote. And they would be upset because that person was charging them more. I understand what that person's going through. So it's just not a good, I think there's a better way to do it.
And so that's what decided you to open your own business?
Well, it was one of the reasons, one of the tacks of, like, I guess the value proposition of my business versus how it's done now. The main reason was to have autonomy and to, like, move the way I want to move without having to ask somebody. Like, if I wanted to, I've been in BNI groups before where, I wanted to make a deal with this particular vendor, but I have to go back and I have to ask and do all this, and versus I can just do it, So I enjoy that a lot. So there's the agency, like, you can move the way you want to move, and when you make a sale, you get more money, obviously, and then B, you can partner with the people you want to partner with no, I don't have to answer to anybody, which is, I think it's a better way.
And so when did you start this business? When did you start the business that you have now?
Well, last year it was spent developing all the content for the AI machine that I have, that essentially white label to the brand, getting the contracts in place, the pricing in place, the flow to make sure it's working and it's not an error here or an error there. That was challenging last year to get that done, but it's up and ready to go. So, like, I would say the start date's now, because I haven't even, strategically put out the social media. I go out to Colorado Springs, I have a buddy who does all the fight promos for, like, UFC fighters and whatnot. And so he's skilled with editing, and that's not a skill that I want to develop. And so also putting a camera in my face and just talking into it. Like, I think I do okay talking, but it's still kind of not normal. So I'm going to go out there and spend 3 or 4 days and just do as much content as I can. I have a whole list and topics to put out, really just educating people about solar and why Share Soleil is a very easy way to incorporate and to do it, whether you want to just get a quote for yourself, or say you're a realtor or a loan officer or an insurance agency, you could add solar to your business, seamlessly. So going back to why, the marketing of solar is one of the problems, is people are knocking on your door. Whereas if you bought a home in PG&E territory, you had to talk to a realtor, you had to talk to a loan officer, you had to talk to an insurance person. And how did not one of those 3 home professionals talk to you about the highest utility company in the nation, right? So this empowers them to have that conversation and to get paid off of it, and to provide that customer with a very reasonable quote instantaneously.
So were you, as far as getting your business up and running to go out on your own, were you confident in, like, all of the things that you needed, or were you kind of like, you took the leap and then you were figuring it out as you went?
The latter. Like, I know, like, what my, like, the gift is, and is, like, talking to people, sales, getting there, but then marketing is not necessarily my gift, or video editing, or that's not my wheelhouse. So I have to do that. Talking to, like, if I had 100 people to talk to about solar and to get them going, like, that's easy. That's the easy part, right? The hard part is getting people to use the link and get in their business, and then build a trust from myself to another business owner. Why would they use this platform? So that's I would say the challenging part. But I expect the content to take a lot of that away, because sales is all about positioning. If I can give a bunch of information, inspire people, or give people new ways to think about it, and then they come to me, that's better than versus me trying to do 100 cold calls.
And if somebody wants to use your services now, so how can they get hold of you? How can we recommend people to you?
Well, if they want to go solar themselves, they can go to sharesoleil.com and get an instant quote immediately. They put their address in. They decide if they want batteries, which most of the time you do. And, you can get a cash quote right there. Within the next month, they'll have third-party offerings on there. So you'll be able to select your power purchase agreement online, so you'll know what your price is monthly if you want to do that. And either way, I get notifications saying the person came in there, so I'll reach out to them and figure out if that's exactly the system that they want. That's if the consumer wants to do it. And if like say an insurance agency or a realtor, or I use those three: realtors, loan officers, and insurance agencies. If either of them wanted to add solar to their business, they can go there, become a Sun ambassador, and have their own link that they could put out on their social media. They could put it on their website. It could click all of their client. They can do an email campaign with that link, and they've essentially added solar to their business like that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
And as far as your down to the client level, ideal clients, do you have? I mean, is it just people looking for their home, or do you do commercial? Like, where have you found the most success with clients?
I can do commercially locally, but the main thing would just be the residential consumer. That the easiest one is, so if you're buying a home in PG&E, SoCal Edison, or San Diego, like, and you don't have solar, there's no way you should be stepping foot in your home without solar. Like, it's a necessity. Like, they're like, at some places during the time, it's like 75 cents a kilowatt hour. It's really, really expensive. So those people, and then you have people who just bought the new homes. And so the new homes in California, it's code that you have to have solar on them, but they'll put like 6 or 8 panels with no battery. So all of those people need more panels and a battery like immediately. They have like a use it or lose it plan. They don't really explain that to them. So those clients, like, they definitely need it ASAP.
It's good to know. So the time always goes by super fast when we do these. So, so tell us a little bit about what you'd want to share with the listeners. Any last words that you want to give to anybody that's listening?
Bet on yourself. That's what I would say. I mean, we live in a great country, and there's like plenty of opportunity for people who bet on themselves. When I grew up, like in 29 Palms, it's probably better now if you have a phone, but like there's, I mean, with the cell phone and AI, there's so many ways to be industrious. And I didn't even grow up like to where there was no entrepreneurship. There's not entrepreneurship in 29 Palms. There wasn't any of that. So I think anyone, bet on yourself and be willing to take the risks. That's what I would say. And that's some advice I still tell myself.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And we appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story. And hopefully we're able to send you some customers from the people that are listening today.
And also get back with you too. I love that. We love a growing journey too. So as you kind of develop, we've done a couple second episodes and see it's like the before and after or the later. So
I look forward to that. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to that. See what I can get done this year.
So well, thank you so much for just giving a peek behind of your journey, and like you said, we can see as you go and grow and figure things out. I think that's a lot of what our listeners are looking for. So thank you for sharing and for being on the podcast.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.